The views expressed are solely those of the individuals providing them and do not reflect the opinions of the Team Stock Pase podcast or their respective affiliates or sponsors.
Stock Pase, what's up, world? Welcome to another episode of the Team Stock Pase podcast. My name is Glad.
And I'm your boy, Rob. We are your favorite Team Stock Pase podcast show where we interview great entrepreneurs from all sectors of industry. And remember, subscribe, share, comment below. Subscribe, you share, you comment below. Glad.
Oh, man. This episode is going viral.
Yeah, I think so.
First of
I
all,
think so. Can y'all hear us back there?
First of all, we got to give a shout out to our live audience. Guys, make some noise for yourselves. Just so they know there's people in here.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Just so they know there's
it's
people in here.
It's crazy because we talked about this.
100%.
We always said we wanted like a live audience, but we weren't sure when it was going to come out.
And here we are.
Yeah.
So we got a great show for you guys today. We met this brother along with his partner who's not here, but he's in spirit today. Shout out to Champ.
Yes.
Our brother Steve Bayonne is here at Skyton Academy. We met him about almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
At the Blueprint Summit in Philly. Shout out Herman CEO, Haitian CEO. Shout out to our brother. And we did a quick interview.
Yep.
And here we are, right? Fast forward, here we are. So we've got a lot to talk about. Your information is profound. Especially relates to what's going on today in the world. There's always something changing, so we're going to talk about it.
Yep.
How you feeling? How's your week been? Talk to us.
It's been a lot going on. Economic crashes, bank failures, teaching the academy, keeping people out of panic mode. It's kind of what I do every day. So it's a blessing.
No
to have
doubt.
a community of people around.
100%.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start off by saying this simple question just to kind of, get warmed up because we're going to get deep in conversation for sure. At the end of the day, who is Steve Bayonne?
Who is Steve Bayonne? Husband, father, serial entrepreneur, in that exact order. So, I just been on this journey going on 3 decades as an entrepreneur. So I've been involved in a multitude of industries, specialty retail. Let's dating back to like Paperboy at an early age. Just to give you a little backstory on that, I had a paper route and I bought out a friend's paper route. And then I ended up hiring friends to then work my paper route. So I'm doing all this around 10, 11 years old.
Straight hustler.
From the beginning.
Okay.
So that's kind of where that started. And then college, I had another little venture. My first year of undergrad, I used to buy, I like this one. I used to buy Chinese food really late before they closed. And I knew by about 2:30, party was over, guys needed to eat. So I used to buy these poo-poo platters, and I used to break it down in the dorm. And so I was the guy you came to eat when you were drunk and high.
Smart.
Right.
Very
and then I got a little polished and, specialty retail. I had products inside the malls, real estate investor and developer, and now teaching the future of finance.
Wow.
So educator is, I guess that's the next title.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Wow. So I know in college we all hustled. I hustled legally. I hustled books and returning books for cash and all of that to pay for everything. But growing up, what was like in your household? Was there anyone inspired? Like, someone was in there like as an entrepreneur? Was there someone that inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think from afar. So my first generation Haitian American, growing up with my father, single father, which was a bit different. Most people are single moms. So I didn't have my mom growing up, but she had the entrepreneur spirit. So I think through just genetics, osmosis, and then my father just, coming from that country and just making something out of nothing.
Gotcha.
Right.
Just that story in itself. Watching his hard work and dedication every day as a single father. So, a little bit of that, a lot of it came from him, but he was so anti what I did. He didn't understand it.
Gotcha.
Because he figured, if you don't wake up at 6, then you're not, or working for someone, he had that sort of mentality.
Got it.
So yeah, work ethic was definitely from him.
Okay.
And then I just adopted more of the American way
Okay.
to navigate.
Any sports figures, any like entrepreneurial icons that we know about that inspired you growing up?
Yeah, I was a bit different back then. Information wasn't really around like that, right? So it just had to be a natural, innate gift, and I thought everyone had it, right? So there was a time I couldn't really, I didn't hone in, the way I would speak to friends. I just thought, you don't see this? So at some point, I started to realize that I'm not seeing the world the same way everybody else is.
Right.
This is a gift.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
But
So no real sports icons like that.
No.
Kobe Bryant's, of course, the Michael Jordans.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting, like, when, like growing up in an entrepreneurial household, there was always someone that inspires you, especially like in the Caribbean household. It's like, you grow up, you go to school, go to work, pay your bills, and die. Period. Like, that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you work hard, go to school, study. But now that generation is kind of seeing, the entrepreneurial side.
Right.
And you starting at a young age, like, as far as like your friends, what kind of friends did you have in that aspect?
So now I don't want to leave this out with my dad. So witnessing the hard work and dedication, whether he worked for someone, he was always of service to people.
Okay.
So that's, some people think entrepreneurship is just all about starting your own business, but really at the end of the day, we're of service to others in the community we serve. So definitely got that from him. Friends group, apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. So the peer, we were all kind of on the same page. But I was always the guy like, Steve's overthinking this, But they appreciated that because I would see what they didn't see.
Thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of my friends were my first business partners, of course, throughout the multitude of journeys.
And they still are.
Yeah, they're not part of this journey here, but they've all contributed in some way.
And how did you and Champ kind of got together to form Skyton Academy?
So that one came through my wife. So as I got older, her friend group became my friend group. So Champ and my wife went to school. He was a little younger than her.
Okay.
And we all had a mutual friend who knew I was doing crypto, and he knew Champ from North Carolina. And he was like, listen, you guys should definitely have a conversation. And I tell you, within the first 3 minutes of meeting Champ, it was instant. And at that time he was doing contract work for military, and he was about to get deployed. So Champ made, I would guess, the most pivotal call to kind of not only bet on himself, but bet on a kid that he just met. There's no checks. There was no talk of like, this is what we're paying. We didn't have a budget. So this was like ground level.
This was it.
So he decided to
Go all in.
forego,
Wow.
and I mean a hefty salary.
Wow.
Yeah, Champ, love you.
That's what's up.
Shout out to Champ, man.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Rob, you got the next question?
Yeah. So we have a couple of questions here where it starts off like just share the story behind how you started Skyton, but as far as a little deeper than that, as when you just meeting Champ and stuff like that. Like what was the first kind of meeting of you two guys like brainstorming and coming up with the whole academy?
Right. So Champ had his own thing going on in the crypto world. He was really big on Twitter.
Right.
Okay.
Champ was the guy that, some bigwigs in crypto were following him, and he was kind of the voice on Twitter at the time. I didn't do Twitter. I had already started a platform, with a basic book. So we both started the exact same year in cryptocurrency, 2015. He was in Afghanistan learning cryptocurrency.
Wow.
I was blessed to be here in America. So when we came together, we had the same ideology and approach to cryptocurrency. And it was just so natural. Now we just had to figure out how do we simplify it to then deliver it to, the community.
Got you.
So there was a lot of brainstorming on just simplifying the terminology.
And as far as the time difference.
No. So he was already back here.
Oh,
so
he was already back.
Yeah, 15,
Okay.
I didn't know him, but this is when he started his journey.
Ah, okay.
So we were in just two different parts of the world.
Gotcha.
Having the same experience, but not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I know you're someone who thinks outside the box. You said that. A lot of times when people hear cryptocurrency, the first thing they hear of or think of is Bitcoin.
Right.
Right. obviously it's more than Bitcoin. But what made you want to get into this field of this cryptocurrency field that per se?
So I have a, and I call him a mentor, but we are of the same, we're in the same age group. He's a friend, Jason Lewis, and he was playing in the institutional world. And he was introduced to crypto, and then we had a conversation one day. He was like, "You ever heard of this cryptocurrency?" And this is back in 2015. And I said, "No, not really. I mean, I've heard a little bit of rumblings, but I didn't know much of it." And then, might have been a 15-minute conversation. And when I got off, something hit me immediately and said, "You know what? You need to start researching this." And if anybody knows me, the minute I get something, it's like, it's instant. I go all in with it. So I just knew at the time what stood out to me the most about cryptocurrency was decentralization. Right, so that means just no central authority, no one owner, and I'm always a guy that's just going above and beyond for people. So it's never like, it's not self-serving on my side. So, in 15, I can remember saying to myself, if they could pull this off, this is going to change the way we have access to the world. When you're a young entrepreneur, I can remember times where I've never put CEO on my card, president, owner. I always wanted to see where people met me when they met me. And it's a bit saddening when you look back on it, you know? So I just knew that this technology could definitely change the course. And it's definitely evolved from then. So I wasn't all in 15, 16, 17, deep like that. But then about 18, 19, I started to really go a little bit deeper into the space. Never Bitcoin, though. Never Bitcoin.
Never Bitcoin.
Never Bitcoin.
Why not?
When I got into crypto, Bitcoin was $250. A little something here and there, but never like they call it
never
Bitcoin.
Invested in Bitcoin.
Not heavy
Not
in
heavy.
the way that.
Okay.
If you would have known, you would have known. But I just knew that project wasn't. I always felt it was a government psyop then. Once you have the first of something, there's a little bit more behind it. So when I started peeling the onion back a little bit, I was just like,
I like the way you think.
right? I got to find the problem first.
Okay.
You got to find
All
the
right.
problem, right?
Yeah, and then when I found it, I was just like, you know what? I don't really align with that part. But I'm grateful for Bitcoin. It's dominant. It's the first, but it was here to form behavior around cryptocurrency. So I'm definitely appreciative of it. I just know better assets that are gonna change the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because crypto is something that, us talking about crypto a lot, it's like, what is crypto?
Right.
A lot of people don't understand the essentials, like the fundamentals of crypto.
Right.
Like, can you break that down a little bit?
It's simple, guys. The currency part is what throws people off.
Okay.
Right? You're like, it's this new money. There's so much of it. Cryptocurrency is nothing more than technology companies. These are all tech startups. They've just adopted a new way of doing business. Okay.
Okay.
So it's a good story that kind of gives you good context into who these guys are. So every 10 years, you'll get a surgence of new, innovative guys, right? So before Mark Zuckerberg, you had, the Bill Gates and those guys, and you're starting to see every 10 years, it's just a newer, younger group of guys. So crypto developers watch their parents suffer in 08 and 09, a lot of them. So when they were formulating the plan, they wanted to remove the banks who caused problems
That
in their
last
house.
crash back in 08.
Back
Yeah.
in 08.
Okay.
Right.
It set a lot of people back. We were young at the time.
Right.
Right. But you don't know what your parents' 401k was like or what they went through, during a housing crisis. So a lot of these kids just started developing with a chip on their shoulder to be anti-boardroom, anti-corporate.
Got you.
And I always root for the underdog, so it was a natural marriage. So cryptocurrency is nothing more than technology companies. They're not here to replace any particular dollar, in a sense, but it's a layer of technology that sits on top of the internet,
Gotcha.
right? So
Okay.
just think about how long it took us to get to this point,
Okay.
for the internet to mature. Now you're putting another piece of technology that's going to make the internet and business more efficient, and it's the first time that money is being disrupted. Right, because we're at the 100-year mark. So every currency in the world lasts about 100 years and then expires. So this is where the dollar's at right now.
The dollar's gonna expire.
Yeah, this is just how things work. And I mean, we see it. We're doing everything to to make it happen at this point.
So all right, so we're looking at what's happening with the financial markets, the market crashing, correcting itself, crashing some more. How do you envision cryptocurrency in the future, and how does someone who wants to get into it, what are the first steps you tell them to get started with it?
Before you get into anything, you want to have a good foundation and footing. Right, because I know a lot of brothers who got into it in 2020, 21 during the pandemic. Money was flowing. The word NFT was being thrown around. It was a novelty at the time. They never understood the foundation of cryptocurrency.
Wait, what is an NFT? I've been hearing that a lot too. What is that?
Non-fungible token. So
that's separate from a crypto.
It's all within the same. So with the
Okay.
technology, you have crypto, you have NFTs, you have blockchain. So it's just simple terminology.
That's another, you gotta keep that in blockchain. That's
So NFTs are nothing more than, you guys remember the days of the membership?
Yes.
Right? You go to a store, they give you a membership card, and it's a loyalty reward card.
Okay.
That's what an NFT is. And then you could just basically tokenize anything of stored value. So art could be an NFT. We can fractionalize this, maybe do 1,000 tiles and sell this to 1,000 individuals.
Wow.
Right? So this is what's happening in the world now. So NFTs are going to be the driver behind tokenization. But you couldn't buy an NFT from Ray Ray in Brooklyn. It's not going to live long.
Right.
Right. So as we were yelling, it's like Champ and I yell in the forest every day. That's the kind of the saying. No one's listening. Clearly there's people listening, but
Right.
just the masses.
The masses.
So we had to kind of rework and retool and refine, kind of our messaging to not lose too much energy
Got you.
dragging people.
So finish the point where you're saying, I'm new into the market. How do I get familiar with using cryptocurrency? How do you envision it being used in the markets down the line?
Yeah, so we're at a time in our society now where everyone just needs something today, right? So it's hard to tell someone, purchase this set asset and in 10 years, right? So I'm heavily invested since 2015. I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary in this. Park never took money out the market, just this is where I'm at. So when you start to look back on history, you start to see the Apples, the Googles, the Amazons, they all started at cents on the dollar. It took a visionary to see exactly what this company is going to do and how it's going to transcend into the future. But so being an entrepreneur with a vision or being a visionary, I'm able to identify things and know instantly whether it's going to work or not. And then what I do too is I always apply it to the culture because we're always the last. Right. So once I apply it to the culture, I'm like, this is going to be relevant. And so really the way you get started is in education first. You have to follow the right person. You have to be ushered in correctly. Because if you turn on the media, it's going to tell you crypto and Bitcoin are for illicit activities. So is the US dollar.
but
100%.
But let's talk about the average. When you talk about culture, dig deep into a little bit about the culture. When you say, we talk about, for example, Ray Ray from Brooklyn, he's used to the dollar.
Yep.
He's used to now Cash App and Zelle and all of this stuff. And now you're talking about Bitcoin and crypto, and all this stuff. Like, what are some of the challenges for the average individual?
Lack of information,
Okay.
ignorance, skepticism.
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 If you know me, you know me. My wife is, she's my walking Alexa. Skepticism. Yeah, so there's just some things where it's just hard for people to wrap their head around it, right? 10 years ago, there was a time you said when debit cards came out, they're going to track me. I'm not using that. Where are we now? Right?
Yeah. Metro cards too.
Metro cards, same thing. I had an aunt. She packed full of tokens. It wasn't until the tokens were expired.
Yeah.
That's when she adopted. So it all depends on where, on that curve you come in at.
Got you.
So what role, I'm going to ask another question. What role do you think does crypto play in like wealth building and like financial security?
You have to understand cryptocurrency is the only, and we're just talking about this to say Bitcoin, all the projects, none of them flow through central banks, okay? So I think in order for you to understand cryptocurrency, you have to understand how money was made, right? This is the biggest issue I see with the culture. A lot of us, and my wife, she has a great quote. She loves saying, people don't really want to make $1 million. They want to spend $1 million, right? So it's one thing to make money. That'll work for you today. It's another to amass wealth and fortune. And then there's the wealth preservation. We're still on the first wave of there's been so much that's happened to us over time. Just the scarcity mindset just doesn't allow you to make changes that look a little further out if you needed to eat yesterday. So that's some of the challenges. When Champ and I first set out, we always identified it for Black and brown people. Now we've since shifted, and it's more culture. At the end of the day, we're for all people. So I think just it's just the information. I mean, you get with us. We have an amazing community. A lot of our students are in here now. They can tell you the first day it's like, it's like Chinese, and then within a weekend they're like, I made this this was a little more difficult than I thought. So I think a lot of the challenges we put are really in our minds, not so much what someone else is, putting on us at the end of the day. So
let's get spicy, Steve.
Let's go.
Can you give us a brief education on how money was made, or give us a background from your knowledge?
All right. So next Wednesday, we actually have a masterclass called the Plan Reloaded. We did this a year ago. We could do this every year, and it's going to be the same problems until this thing bottoms out. So what we do is we take you to the past, the present, and the future, right? So I wanted to go back to a point in history where, all right, well, if we're dealing with this dollar, when did it come about? Because it wasn't here from the beginning of time, right? So without going too deep, there was a time in history that actually mirrors where we're at now. So with the pandemic happening, when it happened, I went back, and the last pandemic was the Spanish flu. Okay. Then when you followed the Spanish flu, it took a while because we weren't as connected. So things kind of traveled slow. It killed a lot of people. Then the Spanish flu led us into the Great Depression, right? Now the U.S. owed a ton of gold around the world, and they didn't want to repay it. So this is when they took us off the gold standard. Now we're no longer backed by gold. They asked their citizens, they made it illegal to hold gold outside of a few people, collectors, maybe the wealthy, right? So I like to tell people there's always a back door that these guys will create. Our job is to just find a back door. They'll never create a room that they get trapped in, right? So when Nixon got us off the gold standard, they created this paper currency, and they basically told the world, we're not paying you anything back, okay? So I start to watch how the United States became dominant. The worst part about what they did to the citizens when they took it off the gold standard, they made it illegal. They gave you a certain amount of time to bring the gold back into the bank. Okay, so they end up giving you whatever set amount. I think it might have been $23 at the time, and so you got the exchange rate. The minute they got all the gold out of circulation, what do you think the government did to the price of gold?
Oh, it went up.
Shot it up.
They increased it.
Increase, yeah.
So you lost about 40% of your wealth instantly. History repeats itself. You're going to have a certain time frame to bring hundreds and fifties back into your bank to get them out of circulation, to then convert to digital. You're already seeing no change, no cash, right? So slowly, cash is slowly coming out of circulation. They're going to devalue the cash, right? Because inflation is nothing more than the government taking back money from citizens. That's all inflation is. Okay? The price of gold, everything is set by individual. There's no supply and demand on gold. And gold is of abundance, right? It's all over the place. It's untapped, it's in land, it's in Africa, it's everywhere, but it's a hedge against it. So when I started to follow that story, it then took me to world economics. So you figure you never even studied the financial market here in the U.S. as someone here in America. But when you start to go abroad, that's when you start to realize how wicked this system is, right? So what America does is they utilize their power to get into these countries. They have this dollar that's dominant, right? And we use it as security, but we weaponize it. So if you don't use this, then there's no protection.
All right.
Right? So when you start to see like what our debt is doing to people around the world. So anytime you go on vacation, when you land in a country, aren't you driving through poverty before you get to those resorts?
100%.
Right. So most of the world lives in poverty. So because of their poverty, we're able to live the life we live here. The land of opportunity is on the backs of many other people. So now you start to watch the dollar crumbling, and what's the first thing that they're doing now? They're replacing the dollar with new currency.
A whole new way of doing banking.
Only way. Okay.
So you had a time in history too. So this is one of the past, part of the past. Gaddafi, you know, and Saddam Hussein were going to form a pact to do something similar to what BRICS, China, and Russia are doing right now. The only difference is they were able to isolate those guys and eliminate the threat.
Kill them.
Yeah. Today you just can't do that with Russia and China.
Right.
Here we are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Powerful. You said follow. Who are some top names someone coming into this space should be, I guess, following or studying or know about with all of these changes that's happening within the economy?
Big Champ.
Good answer.
Right? Marketing _guru. And you know the only reason I say that, and I'm it's funny, but it's not. But I'm being honest. You guys should follow us. We were never indoctrinated into a system, so we care nothing about it. We have no interest in it. Right. So the way we see things is through a clear eye. So even if I said Warren Buffett, he's a guy that tells you that Amazon can't sell books online. Right? He was the guy that bet against Google and Apple. He has an issue with understanding emerging tech because he's old, right? He has money to get in later, but he's not going to be the guy to get in at the bottom level. So there's something to following guys who are really new, but we live in a society where it's like, what are your credentials, right? You'd rather listen to a banking guy in a suit. A billionaire will never give you advice if he can't make money on it, right? A billionaire will never give you advice if he's not making money on it. So literally I could tell you Larry Fink, Jamie Dimon, right? Had CEO Vanguard, BlackRock, you know, all these guys, you could listen to all of them. And if you go back 5 years and you listen to every soundbite on cryptocurrency, they had no interest in it, but they were building things out for the last 10 years in the space. So we knew it. They just weren't ready to share with the world. Now you hear Bitcoin ETF, you hear Ethereum.
So now they're buying it.
They're buying it,
and
right?
they're forcing us to use it, or they're
what they do is they create this ETF, and they're buying it and holding it, and you're investing in them securing it for you,
right?
Where you can come to Champ and Steve, and we can show you how to do it for less than $50, and you get a mother load of it. So you're not getting a whole lot of big returns on these guys, but what you are getting is you're getting the safety net that they wrap around it, right? Because they're credible institutions.
Got it.
You understand?
Yeah.
So we need guys like that. And, you know, we told you that these guys were coming, but the thing about these guys is they don't leave anything on the table for people. You know?
Give you crumbs.
They give you crumbs, right?
So come to you to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
So you could have a better profit.
That too. But when you come to us, there's accountability because now you're running your own bank. There's a lot of responsibility for that. Where's your money in the bank now? I mean, right? Has anybody tried to take out a large sum amount of cash since the pandemic?
Like how much?
$2,500. Just try to go to your bank now and try to take out $5,000. You have to order the money. They don't have
give
it.
you a couple of days.
Yeah.
They got to give you a couple of
Right?
days to do that.
You put enough pressure, they'll give you the money. Just apply pressure.
Right.
Once you apply pressure, it's whatever. And the reason for that is they created this system with paper money that allowed the banks to only hold 10% of your money in the bank. The rest is lent out. The worst part about that system is then the bank could 10x that money and create more money out of thin air and just keep putting money out there, right? When was the last time you guys opened a bank account and you read that big pamphlet that they gave you? Never. Right?
It's a lot of,
so
it's
now
a lot of paperwork.
It's a lot of paperwork, right? It's a lot of small print. Entertain yourself with that. I did. And it's scary because the money's a debt note. right?
Yeah.
Anything could be currency. We could exchange anything. If you feel there's value in whatever I have in my pocket right now, and it's in even exchange, that's a currency. Currency is energy. Currency is supposed to move. It's unbalanced. It's been unbalanced. It's the top 1% and then the 99. But then the top 1% split from each other 4 times since the pandemic. This is what's happening right now.
Say it again. The top.
The top 1% has already created 4 splits. So they're splitting away from each other.
Wow.
So what happened to the bottom 99%? Anybody making more money since last year?
Not keeping up with inflation.
Yeah.
It'll never keep up with inflation, right? The problem with our culture is we don't understand the business of America, right? So we'll always be the product of America. It's not personal, it's just business. If you start running your operation like a business, you won't be caught up in all the personal stuff. And this is why the wealthy never get caught up in media and propaganda. They control the business of it. We get left with the emotions.
You're breaking down a lot of good stuff.
This podcast is gonna get deep. Rob, you got you got the next question. Rob.
Jeez. Talk about with being that we're on the subject of banks. Talk about the concept of bank runs and bailouts, and to understand them, to really understand them.
Let me just put it this way. Institutional guys hate banks too. Okay? They hate them. It's just a system that we have to use right now. So a bank run is when it can cause a contagion. So one person pulls out the money, then the next person pulls out the money, the next person pulls out the money. But if the bank is only holding 10%, where are they going to get all the cash from? So we have this thing called FDIC insurance. Do you guys know that that's not even really insurance?
The FDIC.
So hold on, let's stop right there.
What do you mean it's not really?
FDIC, that's the first sticker you see coming into the bank, right? By the teller,
So
right?
by the teller, right.
I believe it's
right.
what, 250K they, right?
Right,
Is that the
right.
number?
Yeah.
You're telling me that that's not even insurance?
No. They only hold 4% of all holdings out there right now. So it's not covering 100%. It's not 1-to-1.
Wow.
Because remember, we're overinflating the market right now. So there's no more printing press because it's all X's and O's. You're just programming money into the market. They don't print money anymore, right? So the FDIC cannot cover for bank runs. And this is happening all over the world right now. Just maybe 2 weeks ago, China, 40 banks shut down in one day in China. Nigeria dealing with the same thing. So what America's doing now is the technology is the testing ground is happening overseas, and you're seeing how people are reacting. The one thing you never want to do to a nation is you never want to spook the nation. Because once you spook people, then you have no control over how they're going to act, right? So what America's doing is they're just watching. So they're going to usher us into this very slow, okay? But if you start to study, and in the plan, we give you every country what they're going through. There's countries with triple-digit inflation right now. So you're crying 7%, 8%. We're talking about 150%, right? Just think about it, 150% applied to all goods and services. So you're already receiving imports from other countries, so that's already high. Now you got to tack on another. So this is all because of the U.S. dollar. So what you go to countries and you start to see their currencies, they start to use them as like origamis, right?
They don't care about
They don't care about
Was it in Venezuela?
Venezuela, same
It was
thing.
the same thing happening just recently. right?
Same
Just-
thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
they,
Right.
these guys they're a little wacky over there, though.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what we're seeing now is we're seeing a rise of just young leaders around the world that are kind of doing things a little bit different. And I like that, outside of the U.S. So a bank run is nothing more than a whole bunch of us go to the bank and we start requesting our money and they don't have it. So now they have to shut down. Government steps in. What happens? Big banks come in,
The bail.
big five.
Right.
They end up buying the smaller banks out. What the United States goal is to really have 5, maybe 4 main banks.
Got you.
And we're going to get rid of everything else.
Credit unions, stuff like that.
Won't last. Won't last. And these are community banks, right? You start looking at the Chase, Bank of America, I'm going to give you guys information on, you can request the books. They're online. You can see what they actually invest in. Chase might do 2% in your neighborhood. Why would you give them money? Why would you give Bank of America money? I've been banking with Bank of America since the beginning of the time. It's just one of those things. It's hard to break consumer behavior. Why am I banking with them? Oh, they're up and down to 95. When was the last time I went inside a bank? When was the last time you went inside of a bank?
It's been a minute.
I mean, we're just not going there like we used to anymore. Right. And even if there's a problem, you're dealing with it right on the phone.
Right.
Fraud protection. Press 1 if it's you. Press 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So everything's being automated. They're training us. They've been training us for the digital space. Right. So a bank run is that. Then you have this thing called a bail-in. So think about it. There was a big bank the other day that closed down last year. It was Silicon Valley Bank. Big, so they, all things tech, they had a big crypto arm, and they were building a stable coin that would have defied the US dollar, right? Government didn't like that. So because there were so many big institutional guys investing in it, all it takes is for one guy to pull his money, or maybe 2-3 guys to have a conversation, and then they're all out. So they collapsed that bank within seconds. So when you look at Oprah Winfrey was on that list, she got tens of millions of dollars back. So we're talking about, the rule was supposed to be $250,000. How are you getting $20-30 million back? How are you even housing that much money inside of a bank? Right? Because they always tell you, if you have more than $250,000, what do? You just kind of, you diversify. A little bit here, a little bit here. Right? There's a ton of athletes that do that. This is how you limit the exposure, So a bail-in, and this is the worst part, a bail-in is when the bank actually takes your money and pays off whatever debt you have owed to them. Wow. So here's the simplest thing you guys could do right now. If your car note, your credit card, or whatever debt, if it's with that bank, pull out your savings. Pull out your savings account. Okay? Because by law, they can do that. It's their money.
You see this happening?
No, this is already happening.
It's already happening.
It's already happening. Yeah. It hasn't happened to the point where it's going to affect all of us just yet. But to minimize that, wherever you have your debt, just make sure you're not, your savings isn't there.
Okay.
So that's a way of protecting
just your savings.
Just your savings.
Right? Because if I owe you and your bank goes under, it's just debt at that point. Now I just have to deal with whoever the next guy in line is.
So where would you, I'm just trying to make this as easy as possible. ABC 1, 2, 3. So your savings, now you take it out and
put it on the mattress?
Where do you put it?
It's safer, right? It's safer with
safer.
you. That's self-custody. When you have cash in your pocket, it's self-custody. Why do you think they put these wacky rules around what you can do with your own money? Have you ever noticed that? You can't walk around with $10,000 or more. It's like, what does it matter what I'm doing with my own money?
True.
Right? Oh, in order to get this rate, you have to direct deposit every week. Right? There's these whole thing. I think we've given up so much of our power in exchange for convenience. Right? It's taking our innate ability to manage our money, manage our time, manage our health. You understand? So when we talk crypto, we're talking the future. We touch everything. It's not about money for us.
Right.
Because that's not real. It's only as real as what we want to put into it. Right? We have to get back to the times of when you start to manage your life and your business. And listen, it's not just our culture, it's the institutional guys too, right? There's lawyers, doctors, surgeons. They're giving these money to these guys too. They don't know what the hell's happening. They just know they have a rate of return and that's it.
Wow. So you said bank runs, you did bail-ins. What else? Was there something
Or
else?
bailout. So
And
a bailout is when the actual government steps in and uses tax dollars to bail out an industry. So Obama was probably the first one to, the auto industry had to bail them out.
Right.
The banks had to bail them out. But then you look at the cause and effect. So after they bail them out, they're bailing them out with what? Taxpayer dollars.
Yeah.
Right? So we lose the house. We lose the assets that we had. They use our tax dollars to bail them out. And then these guys still fly private. They still got their bonuses paid. Right? So that whole debt crisis that we had back then is actually getting worse. It's worse now. And that's the part that no one's talking about. We're not only headed towards a recession, but there's a debt bubble in the world now.
It's going to get worse.
Yeah, it's bad.
So you think within the next few months?
Yeah. So right now, the only thing that's holding up the economy is this election cycle. No president wants to be associated with the word recession. I'm in the streets every day. This is a recession.
We're already in it.
Yeah, we've been in it, right? They've printed more money during the pandemic than they did in the history of the U.S. dollar.
But then we're paying for it in the long run.
Of course.
Our kids, generations.
Wow.
We're borrowing against our kids' future. And this could be a little segue, if you want. And I've never shared this.
Go.
So I wrote a letter to my children, and it answers the question to why I started Skyton. I read it once on my platform. I couldn't get through it. Right. So I try not to touch this one too much. I do know how to read, but the words are a bit difficult because I'm seeing it. As a visionary, I see things.
Okay.
So as I'm reading it, I'm seeing things. So my daughter's name is Skylar, and my son's name is Princeton. So SKY and then TON at the end, and that's how you get to Skyton.
Very nice.
So every single one of our business
See,
verticals
learn
have been
something today,
named on the backs of our children. So Skyton, that's how it's born. So we have Skyton Real Estate, Skyton Development, Skyton Academy.
It's beautiful.
Right. So I penned this letter to the kids, and this will give you a perspective of a little bit of who I am and why I created this space I did. So dear Princeton and Skylar, my heart is full. Each day I look at you both, watching the people you've become and will become. My heart is filled with pride, hope, and appreciation for the fortunes I've been given. I have no doubt that both of you will make an impact on the world. But it's because of the world, my heart is also heavy. As I write this letter to both of you, my heart is weighed down by the thought of a world you're inheriting. A world shaped by decisions made before your time by people who have little interest in seeing the goodness prevail. It pains me deeply as your father to see the repercussions of those choices and to know that it will affect you as you grow. And in many ways, I feel the need to apologize. I'm sorry I was part of the generation that left you with nothing but economic turmoil in its wake. Our country has been borrowing against your future. Poor management, excessive spending have led to rampant inflation and put the stability of the US dollar at risk. Inflation has become more than just a term you hear on the news. It's a crippling force that diminishes the value of every dollar earned, clouding your dreams and challenging your hopes for a stable future. We live in an era where technology has already dramatically reshaped society, spearheaded by advancements in AI, automation, cryptocurrency, blockchain technology. These innovations have been treated as novelties. They've been treated as cryptic. They've been treated as something other people do to get ahead. But the truth is, these innovations have potential to revolutionize our interactions with the world, eliminating outdated systems and centralized authorities that often restrict our freedoms. It's an exciting time for visionaries who inspire to craft a new solution to bring back power to the people. But it's going to be up to you to make it happen. With these advancements come challenges. The old guard resists change. And the technology, if not guided wisely, could further empower those who wish to consolidate their control. The traditional work roles once taught valuable skills, disappearing in favor for machines and algorithms. These lessons of perseverance, problem solving, and human connection, the lessons I learned at my first jobs. I was a cashier. I delivered papers. I worked retail my entire life, for the most part. Might be experiences you never have. My work ethic was formed at a young age, and the lessons from those jobs shaped the entrepreneur I am today. Let's go. Because of this, I've developed a plan of action, which became Skyton Academy. I aim to provide a platform that offers accessible, forward-thinking education designed to prepare individuals for this new era. For nearly a decade, I've dedicated my life to understanding and investing in transformative technologies, not just for our family, but for the future, for empowering young minds to navigate and influence this rapidly evolving world. Princeton and Skylar, I do this for you and your generation. I hope to equip you with the knowledge and understanding that you do not become a mere spectator, but an active participant in shaping all our futures. For now, my heart is heavy, but the weight is being replaced by hope that your generation will rise above the restrictions and create a better narrative. The future is still yours to write. Love, Dad. So this is a series.
That's deep, bro.
Yeah, so when I tell you I don't do this to make a living, right? And I always tell my wife this, and when we were first together, she watched me mature through every single venture, and she's like, "How are you like not taking care of yourself first?" But I always knew I'll be fine. I always made sure all my employees, anybody that worked alongside me, was paid first. And we suffered, right? But you would never tell. I'm gonna figure this thing out. So I was told, we're gonna be good. Let's just make sure everybody lands right. Mm-hmm. And I think now it makes sense now. I could wrap the words around it. We are kicking a can down the road, right? We keep allowing these people to replace their hips on the dime of our children, okay? These baby boomers own everything, and they're not letting go of anything until they die, okay? Are your kids really prepared for this future if we're still trying to figure out yesterday? So if we know that it's possible that 80% of the job market is going to be erased because of automation, artificial intelligence, where does it leave the children? Right? Most people identify by what they do. So when we opened up, what's your name and what do you do? Mm-hmm. I didn't identify as a job. I'm a person. We weren't put here to work like slaves. America's a marketing machine, right? It does a great job of marketing. It pulls the best talent. You see the opportunity, but it's not for all of us. Even if you wanted to give everybody in this room $1 billion, we're not going to have the same outcome. And don't you think they played this reparation thing out already? Even if they gave it, it would only take less than 12 months for it to go right back to the hands of the people that are responsible. So y'all want reparation to do what? Let's talk about it. I say the quiet things out loud. I'm definitely refining the talk, right?
Don't refine it.
No.
No, I mean, my wife,
We need shock value.
language matters.
100%.
100%.
Right.
It's time for us to wake up as a people, too.
No,
you know
for sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure. But, I give it straight. I present the data. Now, whether you want to believe Santa Claus is not real or real, that's on you. But the lack of information, the lack of knowledge, I'm telling you guys, we came up in a generation that if our parents would have properly understood the power of this technology and looked out, right, or even invested, we would have a different outcome right now. Even the people that worked in the lunchrooms at these companies were millionaires.
What you're telling us basically is this window that's approaching or that is here, if we don't take advantage of it, or this is the opportune time for us to take advantage of this opportunity, this new change of banking and finance.
Right. If you don't do it, this is exactly what's going to happen in the United States. You're going to have, and I hate to say this and I hate to be right. That's another thing. When I call these are like visions that I've had. Mm-hmm. So this ain't, not really reading all day and like taking sound bites from people. That middle class, the lower class, like, all that stuff is done, right? Everyone is going to be back to picking cotton. And I mean every race. This technology has power to bring people together, but it also has power to divide people. Okay? So the longer you wait to understand how this works, you're going to allow the government to usher you into this. Okay?
We're talking about AI.
All of it. Understand, the government was never at the head of understanding the power of the internet and how to really train or put these guys in line. Okay? So when the internet started, it was also decentralized, meaning who owns the internet? Does anybody know? It's decentralized, right? It's a piece of technology that you can build businesses on. It's changed the way that we all make money off the internet. All right? So if we missed that bus and we saw how far it can take you, and there's a new piece of technology that's being laid on top of the internet. It's the reason why technology feels like it's moving faster is because the internet's already here, right? It took time in the 90s because we didn't have home computers. It wasn't fast speed. It was like 1.0. It was really just, you see it, you read it, and that's it.
Or phones.
Right, that too, right? So by the time we got to these advancements, computers and phones and things like that, we're looking at the second iteration of the internet. That's called Web 2.0. So I'm just telling people that we have an opportunity to read the future and adjust. I could tell every single person in here what's going to happen to their industry before it actually happens. And all you have to do, this is a simple thing, just write it down. Go to Google and say, how will artificial intelligence change, and then fill in the blank or whatever your industry is. How will automation change, fill in the blank. How would cryptocurrency and blockchain, fill in the blank. Once you get all that data, you start to read it, you start to make adjustments, you put in your 2 weeks notice. You don't wait for somebody to just cut you, right? You put in your 2 weeks notice. Trust me when I tell you this. This is what's going to happen. What you need to do now is you need to be more valuable in the workforce. That's how you really make good income in this country.
It's funny you say that. Not cut you off, but yeah, I listen to a lot of the Jim Rohn too. He said it years ago. Become valuable in your workforce, your workplace. Definitely.
Yeah, you have to take self-custody over your education. We're following a model that's telling us, yes, you have to go to school. I used to hate. I used to have arguments with people like, nah, we don't need it. I just didn't have the language back then. So I'd get frustrated and sound ignorant. But we don't need it. I was just a guy that you couldn't indoctrinate into a system because I don't think just one way. You know, I was the kid in math that would pass the test, didn't show the work, but then they thought I was cheating. I would have to retake my test at the front of the class with nobody there, and I still passed the test. I can't show the work. I can see the work, right? If I was of a different situation, I'd probably be working at NASA right now. But they'll rather say I got ADD and ADHD. I'm like, no, give me all the A's. Keep me with this. I know this is what I need.
We're going to have the audience ask some questions soon. Just want to keep it going. We talked about gold and silver. Let's do a little more of a dive deep into that. Your thoughts on how it's going to hedge against inflation?
Yeah, so gold has always been it's stored value, and that's what Bitcoin is, right? It's just a place that you go and you just store wealth. Historically, it stays level. There's never anything because gold is not really used for much outside of like just making things. And you know, you might have some of these guys that have gold toilet bowls and they shit in them. You'll cut that out.
It's cool.
And this is why I can't monetize on certain platforms.
It's cool. It's cool.
Nah, it's cool, bro.
It's cool. All right, cool. Yeah, so gold, gold and silver they're just asset classes, and it's just a way of diversifying, right?
So you do recommend us investing in gold and silver?
I do, and the data's out there. 23 states in the last 2 years have instituted to change the laws in the states to allow gold and silver as legal tender. And you got to ask yourself, why are they doing this now? The governors of states have a different, or local politicians have to deal with this shit on the ground. So the reason they instituted to bring those asset classes back is because they know where the dollar's headed. And they're basically telling you, listen, park your money in here as shelter. Okay? When you look at, there's this thing called the debt clock, the U.S. debt clock. It'll tell you the running total. You know, paying like $1 billion a day on interest, like it's crazy.
Is that the big clock?
That's the big clock, right? So make that your friend, debtclock.org, right?
Right.
You'll start to see everything. It gives you every piece of data, how much this industry's worth, this. And once you look over to the right, it's going to be the 5 and 10 year, like gold ratio. There's even gold against bricks, right? The price of gold today might be, don't quote me on this, but let's say $2,400 an ounce. What the government is doing right now is they're moving the debt, the trillions that we have in debt, they're going to start to back it behind commodities. What they're going to do is they're going to make that commodity, which is going to be gold, they're going to increase the price of the commodity to then lower the debt on paper, technically. So when you look at the price that we get for gold versus the price that bricks is almost at like 20K an ounce. They set prices. These guys, they sit in rooms and they decide, all right, what we're going to give the public and then what we actually make it on the back end.
Right. Do you think they'll peg the dollar to gold again? Because
100%. That's where we're at now. They're
going to do it.
They passed the law this year.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It's like we're back on the gold standard again. Now,
They just haven't announced it yet.
I mean, if you read, it's there. It's just a matter of what are you going to do with the information when you read it. So here's the play, guys. They're going to back the debt by gold. The United States has a lot of gold, just so you know, a ton of it, right? Because when we went around the world, we basically pillaged. We have gold everywhere in the world. So we're a big holder of gold. So once they back the debt by gold, they're going to start to this is where you get into the tokenization part. So they have to go digital now, right? Because we're in a digital age. Mm-hmm. So now your dollar is going to be a lot more stable. So this is why cryptocurrencies is important, because for not every project in crypto is honest, right? But for the real ones, they have a limited supply. So Bitcoin is like 26 million, never to make more, right? So this is how you can see the price of it has outperformed every asset class since 2009, easily. Mm-hmm. Right? It's inflationary. You can't create inflation around it. So this is the same system we need. So the dollar would have worked if you would have just kept it dollar for dollar. But when you start to overprint, it becomes an excess. And what's the value? If you could wake up every day and just print money and go outside, and all of us did it, what would be the true value of money at that point now? That's what America's doing to us right now. And it pains me to know that it's always the people at the bottom that get the raw end of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Currency is imbalanced. It's in the wrong hands. Right? So this is why I tell you, like, you could either be on this next wave and this next, they like to say, cryptocurrency guys are going to be so you have the Republicans, Democrats, and independent. Then you're going to have cryptocurrency leaders. Like, we'll have our own political party.
Wow.
Right? The brightest, sharpest minds in the world that care about people.
That's deep. No, that's deep.
Right? When you don't care to own your company and you just allow everybody to partake in it, is that not a better system?
Absolutely.
That's definitely deep.
That's cryptocurrency. That's the part they're not telling you about, because if they empower you with that, it takes the power away from them.
Right.
So in that letter, when I talked about it can go either way if we don't take the power back, but I'm noticing even with the political climate, I'm like, we're fucked. No one cares, right? They could throw crumbs at us and we'll just argue over that.
Rob, go ahead.
Here's something I was thinking about as far as when you talk about crypto and the dollar.
Yeah.
So the average person who's working is now getting paid, and they're looking at the dollar. Well, everything is going up except for my paycheck.
Yep.
Right. So here you are. You're talking about crypto. Mm-hmm. So, and now the government is now saying, well, if you guys are going to start this separate currency, we need to be a part of it.
Right.
But then how do you change those employees to become more valuable and be at equal with that cryptocurrency, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so what the government, so we already have a digital dollar now. Your bank account is X's and O's. When you do direct deposit, there's no check, there's no cash, right? So you're already in the digital world operating.
Right.
They're already using terms like wallet, Apple Wallet, right? You're starting to hear, they're setting us up for it. It's obvious.
Wish I got hacked last month. He knows.
On your Apple situation.
Damn, I got hacked.
Yeah.
They got me good.
Right?
Yeah.
An Apple Wallet?
Yeah. I'll tell you later how it happened. I was shocked.
So what every country is going to do is they're going to create a stable coin that's going to replace their currency. And a stable coin is nothing more than a digital dollar. And the reason it stays stable is because it's supposed to be a one-to-one backing. Mm-hmm. And that's what the government's going to do. So every single bank that makes it out of the final financial crash are going to be your crypto exchanges. So business as usual, guys.
Gotcha.
They're not going to give up this power right now. So right now we have an opportunity to buy in a decentralized world from exchanges that aren't really owned by any one entity. The Jamie Dimons, the Chase banks, none of them have ownership over this. This is why it's so limited.
And there's no laws yet on this.
We still follow financial laws in cryptocurrency, but there's no real framework around it.
Okay.
This administration can't touch it. They're not equipped to do that.
Not yet, you think? Or
No, I just mean this administration, the Democrats.
Okay, right.
It's dumb. If they're much, it's birthrights and equality, love is love, right? That's what they're worried about. Whereas you have another side of the coin, when they just talk, they just say, the Republican mindset is people help people, don't turn to government. People help people. I'll give you an example. We have a student of ours who fell on hard times. She has a illness. She's had it with us, stress, boom, lupus. We've been trying to reach her. She's been in the hospital for months in a coma. Right? So we finally get her. We do what we need to do personally. We turn to our community. Everybody chips in. She's getting back on track now.
That's what's up.
Nice. People help people.
Mm-hmm.
That's an example. We don't, Champ and I never, and our students are in here, we don't treat our students as less than. I like to say the table's round, and when you look at a round table, who's at the head of the table?
Right.
That goes back to me never putting my name as CEO or owner. I don't care about that. It's obvious. I know. So we just have to, they're going to usher you in because it's already digital. So you're not even going to feel it or see it. What you are going to see is you're going to see them taking cash out of circulation. Start looking at reverse ATMs. When you go to the grocery store and you walk out, look at the Coinstar machine and just see what you can put in there and see how you can convert it. Now you don't have to convert it to cash. You can convert it to crypto. I'm not making this up. Also in the grocery store, you'll start to see this thing called a reverse ATM. Stores aren't taking cash, so what do? You put the cash in the machine and it gives you what back? A card.
A card, yeah.
Okay?
Right.
The world is underbanked. So now there's companies that are making SIM cards that are, your phone is your bank. Right? That's the bank. That's the digital ID. Okay? Understand now we're in one place, one control mechanism.
I was just going to say, isn't that that's a form of control?
That's a double-edged sword.
That's a double-edged sword, right?
But if you know how to, if you navigate crypto correctly with the right guys, they can teach you how to be self-custody. That's through cold storage.
So if we're peer-to-peer, and we don't need the bank per se, what happens to the banks over time?
So from 2025 to 2028, we're going to be in a financial revolution. Every country right now has a financial uprising except for America. Nigeria, financial uprising. Venezuela, financial uprising, right? They keep us busy with enough stuff. We have Netflix, they don't, right? We have this, they don't. We have so much at our disposal, right? They keep us entertained. Distractions. But we're all feeling it right now. Even my guys with the most money, they're like, this is a little crazy because they're used to it moving. So now you're starting to see a big sell-off of the stock market. What guys are doing is they're just sitting on cash and they're waiting for this thing to bottom out. But they've been invested in crypto, not directly, but indirectly. So they buy infrastructure. So when you look at crypto, look at infrastructure. So my guy Storm, he's in real estate. And I like to tell people, if you were to buy real estate, and I always ask this, if you were to own real estate, what would it be? And people are like, oh, commercial buildings, oh, this hotel, casino. And I'm like, it's the money's in the land. That's the infrastructure. You have air rights, you have mineral rights, you own the land. Same thing with cryptocurrency. When these guys come in, they're buying infrastructure. So Ethereum is an infrastructure. You don't invest in a thing. You invest in the thing that the things are going to sit on. And at that point, I don't care if I own land, what you build on it.
Right.
Just pay me. So cryptocurrency has been built out of infrastructure since 2008 was when Bitcoin first started. 2009 was the first block that was formed. And then since then, there has been so many companies that are building, and I'll give you an example. And this one everybody gets. We're moving towards a digital age. Cars, everything's becoming electronic, right? Electric. So when you first get your apartment or your house, and you have two utilities that you have to cut on, gas and electric, right? Gas, there's an appointment for gas, right? Somebody has to physically come out
Correct.
to open the gas.
Right.
Electric is done how?
Just remote.
Right over the phone.
Over the phone, yeah.
Right?
Right.
So there's a company called VeChain, VET. One of my favorites. I've been telling people about this for years. Their supply chain management. So their job is to collect data, put it on a blockchain, and make it accessible for companies to be able to access the data for whatever reason, right? So Walmart China has a partnership with VeChain. Walmart China's system is old and outdated. In order for them to find one product in a store in China, it takes them 24 hours. With the crypto technology company or the layer of technology that lays over it, they could find 35,000 products in 3 seconds.
Wow.
Right? So now you tripped up and you introduced this crypto, this blockchain, and you started to put artificial intelligence into it. And then you put automation. Now we're talking about the most powerful piece of technology on the planet right now. And none of us are positioning ourselves to even understand, one, what it is or to get certified. And we gave away 7 free companies and institutions, Google, Harvard, Intel, IBM, Amazon, AWS, they all giving out free training. I don't need a job, but they're paying 6 figures because they just need more people. So programmers are dead. Programmers are dead. That's over. Now it's all machine learning. So programmers have out-programmed themselves to where they're no longer needed.
Right.
So in machine learning, you just have to speak it. Right? So think about this. Everyone is saying the biggest, if you're going to go to college or you have kids that are going to college, it's English, psychology, and philosophy, studying human behavior. If you can do those things, you can be more valuable, right? But here's the thing. The culture has a different language than what the world speaks, right? So there's some sisters out in the Midwest, they have this great AI product, and it's for hair, right? So you can either mail them a hair sample, or you can take a photo of the hair, and the AI intelligence they put behind it could tell you what type of hair is on your beard, on your hair, whatever. And it'll say what best product to be used for that hair type. Wow. This is how the technology is going to help our lives. So everybody should have a personal AI that you train for yourself. Everybody should have an AI physician. Don't act like your doctor is, in 7 minutes, he's telling you like what you really need to do. It's just a business. You have an AI for self-care. Your kids could have an AI tutor. And you're training this. So the more information you put into it, the more personal it is to you. So there's a wealth of opportunity just within the culture. White men can't usher us into the digital world again. It doesn't work, right? So what may seem like a animated conversation between you and I could be threatening to them. So that's banned on their platform, right? It pains me to know how much power we have when we just don't exercise it. So I'm really just put here to just breathe life into people.
Great segue. There's a lot of people here from your community.
Yeah.
What some projects or cryptocurrencies do you highlight for the beginners? In your course.
VeChain is one I like to explain because they have along with the Walmart, easy for people to explain to understand. They have a partnership with BMW. So what's going to happen in the future? The car is going to be data. So when you look at Elon Musk, he was at a meeting and some big automotive investor, they were coming up to him. They're like, yeah, you're going to fail. We know why. And he's like, oh, why? And they're like, car makers don't make money on the sale of the car. They make money on the aftermarket parts. A million parts in your car. That's where the money's at, right? They know how they build the stuff. It's not going to last. So when you have these electric cars that come and they don't have any parts, it's like, all right, so where's the money coming from? Elon Musk, the car is nothing more than data. The car is going to speak to where you go, when you go, right? It's going to interact with traffic lights. It's going to interact with your financial institution. So if you don't pay your car note, what happens to the car?
They're going to lock it.
It stops.
It's going to explode?
Shuts down.
You just ain't going to work that day, my brother. You know what I'm saying? When you get a ticket, what happens? Everything's going to be interconnected. So if money's going to move at the speed of light, that means every good, bad, or indifferent, you got to take all of it together. So VeChain has the technology in every vehicle that's going to say, so when you buy a car now, we go to Carfax report. But it's only as good as if the accident was reported. But are you going to believe me when I say the technology in the car could tell you if it's ever been an accident, how fast the car has been driven, how many miles truly are on the vehicle, if any parts were ever replaced on the car, all of it would be right there for you to be able to scan with your phone and know if this is a good purchase or not. It will eliminate the need for all of these systems that we have that just create middlemen. And with middlemen, you create what? Higher pricing. We come from the streets. You know, you want to be as close to the source as possible to get the better price.
Right.
Simple. It works in every boardroom in America, every street corner in America.
Wow.
So that technology, yeah, for somebody responsible is great. You got the information, but for somebody who's not responsible and you're 2 days late and you need to go make money, it doesn't work. But then the flip side of it is when you have these cars, you could turn them into like what Elon Musk is doing. You could just send a car out there to do deliveries or pick people up because it's all going to be self-driving. But now I think we're back to the everybody skeptic what? That one. Right?
That
so,
word.
I have friends who are like 10 years later, like, the cars would never drive themselves. Right? That's the horse and buggy mentality. We can't believe that that's not happening. It's already happening now.
Yeah.
They're here. So when you look at that technology, same thing. So the guy he actually worked for Louis Vuitton. He was a chief information officer there. So it was really for you to be able to identify a real bag from a fake bag. So everything in the world is going to be able to be scanned, and you'll know whether that bottle of wine is real, this watch is real. You'll have every data on it when it scans, who owned it, when it was made, when it was shipped, what stores it was sold in. See what I'm saying?
Crazy.
Same thing with sneakers. If you look at the practices of what businesses are doing right now. Nike is no longer opening accounts. That means there's no longer secondary markets. They're going to control it. The technology is being put into the sneakers right now. You scan it, you know it's real. Counterfeit market is a big market.
Right. Big,
right?
Huge.
Not everybody wants to buy fake goods. They're just getting better now, and you just don't know. So this is what the technology is gonna do for us. It's gonna keep things honest, right? Immutable, meaning the information can't be changed because once it's on there, it's like a fingerprint.
So you're kind of telling me if people who are part of your community, you kind of help change their mindset of what's to come in the future.
Yeah. And, I like to say, a lot of us, you grow up on hard times back in the day, you're on Section 8. Section 8 is a social credit score, right? And it's digital now. Now it's no longer the paper that you run around with. It's in the form of a card. And the card tells you exactly what you could buy and what you can't buy.
Right.
Now, if you could find a bodega that'll slip you a cigarette or two, then, that's the hood politics. But for the most part, we have already been conditioned for what they're about to do to us. So Champ is my deep dive guy. He's just big and just smart. You know what I'm saying? I just come through like, that's just dumb, man. It's like a perfect marriage.
Right.
But I could speak the language because the financial language is just confusing. It's not hard. We just don't take the time to really understand the language.
Right.
So how could you love something so much and not have an understanding of it? That's why it leaves us as fast as we get it. Because we always feel like we can make it back. But 80% of the job market is going to be wiped out. How valuable are you?
Wow.
Did this inspire you for a Plan Reloaded masterclass?
It did.
All of this?
It did.
Talk about that.
So we did this a year ago. And we called everything that's happening now, we called it. Everything. My students are in everything to the T outside of the dates.
Yeah, he's
I have
his
a
head.
good amount of my students. We have never been wrong about something. And again, I hate to be right. You're going to see blackouts. You're seeing them now. That CrowdStrike situation, that was a test. You have to do emergency response. Pandemic was like emergency response test before the pandemic happened. There's an organization called the World Economic Forum, WEF. I introduced that to the community. They meet every year in Davos, and then they have this 10-year agenda. So 2020 would tell you everything for 2030. 2000 was the plan for 2010. When you go and you look at the World Economic Forum, it's nothing but the most powerful men and women in the world, institutions, politicians, everything, wealthy individuals, and they sit around and they do what we call problem, reaction, solution. right? So they tell you what's about to happen. They tell you how the people are going to react, and then they build the solutions. So this is why the vaccines are ready. This is why this is ready. This is why this is ready. They just need to unleash it on us. So I've read the 2020 agenda. We're fucked. We're fucked.
Pretty much.
Now, and I say this in a good way because I'm excited about the times because this is their last stance, right? Because there was a time where they didn't say the quiet things out loud. Now they're just telling you.
Why you think it's changed?